High performing teams are burning out for a number of different reasons, but a lot of it is overload, mental and even emotional overload. You have all these very logically minded engineers that are really focused on the outcomes of the issues. They really care about solving the problems. They care about their work. They care about all of that kind of stuff. But they're stuck in a state of constant mental saturation. And when you're overloaded, when you're overwhelmed, when there's so much going on, it's hard to focus. You tend to make decisions slower. You tend to make mistakes. You tend to work slower. You get distracted more easily because all of these things are just hitting them nonstop. Burnout is not an emotional failure. It's an operational one. Burnout is the result of not giving your people, or maybe not giving yourself, the time to process things and to actually take a pause and breathe. It's the inability, burnout comes from the inability to process your own emotions and process your own stress, process your own thoughts. You're just constantly shoving them down. It's work-life balance to a T. So you're constantly, everything is go, go, go. And part of that is because you don't want to deal with the things that are coming from underneath. You don't want to feel the feelings. You don't want to feel the stress. You're trying to solve it. You don't want to deal with the anger or the sadness. You turn that off. You're trying to ignore it and just move past it. When those things, when you turn them off, when you ignore them, when you avoid them, they build up from underneath and gradually they come to the surface. Sometimes they explode in different situations. Sometimes they cause health issues. Sometimes cause mental health issues. All of these things contribute to overwhelm, which contributes to burnout for highly technical people. Yeah, so what's my story? How did I get into this? That's a valid question. I'm a IT veteran. I've been in the industry since 2004, 2006 timeframe, and I saw a lot of unhealthy habits in myself and my coworkers and how to deal with most of this, right? I've had at least 2 different coworkers end up in the hospital because of work-life balance issues. They just work themselves sick. I know lots of different coworkers that have had mental health issues, many of them not diagnosed or expressed, but you could tell they were struggling with things, and that includes myself. And that's really the fact that changed the game for me, is going through a deep battle with depression. I've always been an emotional person, but I've always been a very logical person. And what I mean by that is I'm always quick to feel my feelings, but I've never really understood why. I've never understood how to approach them or why I felt them. I was quick to express them, but I wasn't quick to understand them. Yeah, you could say my story is like having technical debt. You build this amazing product, you designed it certain ways, maybe you cut some corners initially because you're like, we just got to get this out quick. And then years down the road, you're like, we need to add these new features, but we can't do these new features until we address this problem that is now ingrained in all aspects of the product. That's technical debt. We need to solve this issue that we didn't deal with years ago. I realized I had technical debt and it was bubbling up. It was becoming something that was not letting me move forward. My motivation was lacking. I was procrastinating. I was physically not doing well. I was having physical symptoms of pains in my stomach, and I didn't want to work anymore. I didn't want to do anything anymore. And that included with my family and my friends. It led me towards depression. Technical debt for me resulted in depression. What do you got to do with your technical debt? You've got to go back and you got to address it. You've got to rewrite it. You've got to redevelop how things are designed. You've got to redesign the network. You've got to redesign the application. You've got to jump into it. Now I view it as, okay, if you can do that sooner in the process, just like everybody always pushes you to do, we need to solve this problem before it becomes too much of an issue. That's what we're doing. We're trying to solve the problem before it blows up in our face or in somebody else's face. So seeing friends and colleagues battle with these issues that ultimately came down to not dealing with emotions in a healthy way, and then seeing myself go through that cycle, I have a strong passion now and to want to help other people not hopefully get to the same rock bottoms that I did. The idea is if I can help somebody else not hit the same lows, or if they are hitting that low, seeing a way out of it is huge for me. And so how do we address this in a healthy way? And for me, the way to do that is through the mind. Let's do it logically. Let's explain what they are. Let's explain why emotions are there, what their purpose is, why we feel them, why we shouldn't ignore them, and how we can actually use them to help us versus hinder us. Yeah, so my personal mission is honestly just to help people be better versions of themselves. That's really what this is about. I lean on IT, or I focus on IT only because that's my comfort level. That's my people. That's where I've been in the past 20 years, but this is 100% not IT specific. And I'm happy to extend this out to any profession or group of people that tend to be more logically minded. I think this would work well for you. Why do IT teams, engineering team, just any logically minded teams, why do they struggle so much with this? And a lot of that's because we think we can outthink our problems. I say that as somebody who does this myself. We think we can think away our emotions and think away our internal issues that are coming up. I'm feeling angry, I can overthink it. I can think it away. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling stressed. All I have to do is think more and think harder. Yet, really what's happening is we're running at full capacity. When things start flagging us internally, emotions start flagging, things like that, emotions are just telling us something. And sometimes they're telling us, hey, you're running too hard, you're running too much. And just like if you had a router or something that was running full capacity and started dropping packets, you don't just yell at it and tell it to work faster and work harder. You solve the problem. You look at what is causing this overload and you change and redesign and re-engineer the environment so that the device is not overwhelmed. But we don't look at ourselves the same way. When we are running at capacity and we are running full force, 100% on, we're on call, we don't look at ourselves as a network that we can optimize and we can operate more efficiently. IT people, logically minded people, we don't like the abstract. We don't like the feelings. Because it doesn't feel like tangible. We prefer the hard truths. We prefer we know this is true. We know this is fact. We know we can do this, this, and this. And so we avoid all of these touchy-feely things. And so my proposal is we start looking at the touchy-feely things with a logical mindset. Can we view emotions as data? They're just data points. They're telling us something. Some value that is not being addressed, or some fear or risk that's getting popped up. Can we view the emotions as data points instead of just these annoying things that we need to get rid of and avoid? This is one of the struggles with traditional wellness stuff. They approach these issues from a more emotionally minded perspective. And we need to shift that perspective especially for people in IT, people in data center stuff. We're logically minded. And so a lot of that just doesn't land, which is why I developed the logical mind framework. Or the logical mind framework is taking emotional intelligence, but approaching it from the logical mind. We minimize the woo-woo and the touchy-feely, and we focus on, we can approach this logically and get to the same results. That doesn't mean you don't feel your feelings. It means we teach you to feel your feelings, but here's why. And here's the logical reasons why. Here's how the brain works. Here's why it works this way. And here's why if you do these things, you get to these results. And they're tangible results. You can see them. You can feel them, to put a pun to it. Engineers want tools. They don't want platitudes. Right? A lot of wellness approaches don't stick because they're not realistic to the day-to-day operations of what people actually go through. They're not addressing the moment in need. So when you have a P1 ticket and your director or CEO is hovering over your shoulder and you're trying to solve a problem that's causing a major downtime, whatever is happening, in that high emotional state, what's happening is your prefrontal cortex is actually going offline. You're in your sympathetic nervous system. You're overloaded. The amygdala is taken over. What an engineer needs in that moment is a specific task, a specific tool. This isn't what can I do overall to solve the problem. It's what can I do in this moment right now to get to the issue and get this feeling essentially out of my system so that I can actually perform the way I need to. So this is different from soft skills training because even though I would argue that the logical mind framework, these workshops, these things that I teach definitely include soft skills. It's not a surface level addressing the problem. It's not hey, just say this instead of that. It's understanding why you should say that. It's understanding where this comes from. It's changing the perspective to make it a deeper understanding of why you do things. Because if you help people understand why they should behave differently or say things differently, then they'll do it naturally themselves. Versus if you're just trying to put lipstick on a pig. You need to address the root of the problem, not just the surface level symptoms. So emotional intelligence engineering is intentional. I've always prided myself on the fact that I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer by trade. I've been an engineer for 20 plus years. And maybe it's, maybe I just don't want to get rid of the title. I just really like the title because it feels like that's part of who I am. And what I found is I can view myself as an engineer. I can engineer my own emotions. I can engineer my own internal network. And I can operate my network more efficiently. I can optimize it. I can do upgrades, right? Just like I can do that with everything else. It allows me to take a more logical approach to everything that I'm feeling and seeing. Emotional intelligence engineering is also science-backed. It's designed to work in imperfect conditions. It's not just, let's go meditate and zen out. It is, here's why you meditate. Here's the logical reasons behind it. Here's the clinical studies that explain it. Here's the neuroscience behind what you're actually trying to do and why you're doing it. It's not just a go do this because it makes you feel better and just trust me. We're not telling engineers to not feel their emotions. Actually, it's quite the opposite. But what we're doing is changing the perspective about what those emotions are. Right? We teach them a different way to look at them. They're just data points telling you something. And if we can look at the data and understand why it is the way it is, where it's coming from, all that kind of stuff, then we get to decide how to react or respond differently when we have the full picture. For example, if I have a deep fear of rejection, a lot of people do. I'm very afraid of people rejecting me as a person, not liking what I say, not liking who I am. And as a result, I tend to be very friendly and very welcoming, and I don't push against other people very often. I can be kind of a chameleon. I can blend into all these different situations with any different kind of people, and that's a pro and a con. On the one hand, I can make friends with just about anybody, but maybe I shouldn't be making friends with just about anybody. But that comes from a fear of rejection, but understanding why something comes up. Then the next time something triggers, my boss is upset with me, my boss got after me, he gave me some constructive criticism, I get these feelings come up that get me frustrated and agitated, and I recognize, oh, that's actually data points because it's triggering this fear I have of rejection, and I'm afraid my boss is going to reject me. It has nothing to do with it. My boss is trying to help me become a better version, be a better engineer, be a better employee. It's the opposite, actually, of rejection is what is being presented. And when I recognize, oh, that's what's happening, that's where these feelings and emotions are coming from, I can choose how to react. I can choose how to respond. Really, there's 3 phases. And I've broken it apart. Logical mind is actually, there's 3 different words there. Calm is the first part, and it's right in the middle of that word. So the first piece is you've got to calm your logical mind. Calming is stabilizing your biology. Before you can think logically, you must stabilize your biology. If you're stuck in that fight or flight response, if you're stuck in that emotional response, your logical mind is turned off. And you're just acting and behaving emotionally. That's when people get upset. That's when people say things they wish they could pull back from. That's when I've seen sales engineers lose deals because they behaved or they reacted emotionally to an experience or to a situation. That's when myself has created more issues than I solved in the middle of a priority 1 incident or massive downtime because you're not thinking logically. So the first step you've got to do is calm yourself. And there's a lot of different tools you can use to do that. And some of it is breath work, meditation. But there's a lot of other ways to do it too. Some of it's just getting up and moving your body, taking a walk, going outside, all these different things you've always heard, but we frame it from a logical perspective of here's why this actually works. Like breath work, for example. Breath work works because it's the only function of the autonomic nervous system that you actually can control. You have both involuntary and voluntary control of your breathing. Everybody knows when you're frustrated or upset or stressed or angry or afraid, your heart rate goes up, your breathing gets more intense, you start breathing heavier. Well, if you are aware enough to recognize, hey, I'm in this state, all I'm going to do is change how I'm breathing. And I'm going to slow my breathing down. And if I slow my breathing down, there's lots of different tools and techniques that we give you to help you do this, but really you just slow your breathing down. What that does is it tells your brain, hey, we're safe. We're actually okay. And that trigger of telling your brain, hey, we're safe, then sends it to the rest of your body. And suddenly, instead of your body being overloaded with adrenaline and cortisol, you're now getting dopamine, serotonin. You're flipping from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest and digest. And as soon as you've calmed your body, Now you can go back and logically look at those emotions. Everybody knows this naturally, but we don't think about it enough to actually address it differently. For example, if you've ever had kids or nieces, nephews, or whatever, or even seeing it at a grocery store, when there's a 2 or 3-year-old just completely losing their shit, complete tantrum, you can't logically explain things to them in that space. No logical explanation to any 2 or 3-year-old is going to help when they are in this emotional response. You have to first get them to calm down. After the calming down is when you can have the logical conversation. It's the same thing with us, but we always forget that about ourselves. So phase 1 is the calm protocol. So the calm protocol is all about stabilizing the biology. Then we move to the second phase, which is the logic protocol. The logic protocol is where, now that we've calmed our biology, we can look back at what happened and understand it better. So once the body is calm, the mind can be precise. So now we can address the issues. We can start looking at it. And the first step in the logic protocol is labeling. It's understanding what actually was it that I was feeling. Was that stress? Was that overwhelm? Was that frustration? The reason we label it is because the way you label an emotion changes how your body responds to it. Brene Brown talks about this quite a bit. So if you were stressed, but you call it overwhelm, what happens is your body responds to it like it's overwhelm. So labeling your emotions changes how you react and respond to them. So a key piece of this is understanding which emotion you're actually feeling so you can label it accurately. So in the logical phase, we go through and we learn the emotion, we explore where it's coming from, how the intensity of the emotion, we'll do some inspection on the emotion. And again, this could be joy, this could be sadness, this could be overwhelm, stress, you name it. Once you have the tools to calm yourself, and then you have the tools to understand why you behaved in a certain way, that helps you the next time it comes up to be able to react potentially in a better or different way. This logical phase is a place where therapy can be a huge benefit. So I'm certainly not a therapist. I'm not a replacement of a therapist in any way, shape, or form. And there's a step in this, in the logic protocol, where we gauge the intensity and you get to decide if this is something I'm capable and willing to address on my own, or is this something I need to escalate? Is this a ticket that is now exceeding my expertise? That's absolutely part of the conversation. Is this looks like this is stemming from this capital T trauma I experienced in my past at some point. I probably need some help processing this and uncovering this and working through this in a safe space. Escalate the ticket. Go get the subject matter expert to help you deal with that. We go through that process of understanding when you need to reach out, when you need to escalate versus trying to solve these problems on yourself, and it's just going to get you nowhere. And sometimes escalation might just be to a friend or family member. Sometimes it's just, I need somebody else to look at the same thing from a different perspective because they're going to see things that I'm not. Just like when you have a trouble ticket or a network issue, it can be super helpful to have a different set of eyes come and look at the same problem, and they're likely going to see things that you're missing. So this is all part of that logical protocol, the logic phase. That moves us on to phase 3. So phase 1 is calm protocol. Phase 2 is the logic protocol. Phase 3 is the mind protocol. Phase 3 is where we've taken what we've learned about ourselves, and now we look at how this changes how we interact with other people. It's amazing how quickly, when you understand something about yourself, how quickly you'll see that reflected in other people. When you recognize, oh, this reaction that I had was because of this value that was not being met or this fear that was being triggered. When I see that in other people now, it's so much easier for me to be like, oh, I bet that's triggering a fear of theirs. I bet that's a value that's not being met that is now expressing itself in this way. And it changes the game in how you respond to other people who are getting emotional, getting upset, agitated, whatever it may be, because you have a different level of empathy from it, because now you've experienced it yourself. You understand why some of those things happen yourself, and it's so much easier to understand, oh, you're not alone, right? Other people experience the same thing. We all go through this. And so now when I see other people having a reaction, an emotional reaction to something, I can not be triggered by their emotional response and not feed into this emotional spiral. So the mind protocol is really all about, once you understand yourself, you can understand other people. 3 different levels of workshops right now. I call it the network reset, which is the lunch and learn, the network optimization, which is the half-day workshop, and then the network upgrade, and that's the full-day workshop. So the workshop is not all lecture. Everybody would be bored to death if I got up there and I'm just presenting. I don't do death by PowerPoint. This is a very interactive thing. It's conversational. We talk with people. Hopefully there's some vulnerability that happens. I'm happy to share a lot of my stories, and that hopefully keeps it somewhat engaging and interesting. But the idea is to come out of the workshop with tangible tools that you can actually use, day one, that afternoon, if something comes up. One is like a lunch and learn. So it's more of an intro into the concept, into these ideas, 60 to 90 minutes. That really focuses on the first phase of the approach. It's the how do I stabilize the biology? So we're going to give you some cheat sheets, give you some breathing exercises, giving you some different tools, and help you become aware of things that are happening within yourself, and then some tools of what to do about it. Another workshop is like a 4-hour half-day workshop. This is where we dive deeper into the Calm protocol, and then we jump into that logic protocol as well, the phase 2. How do we actually process these emotions? How do we process these things that we felt and understood from a logical mindset? Again, this is all very science-based, logical-minded focus. The full day workshop, start to finish, cover everything. We talk about how to calm yourself, how to calm your biology in phase 1, how to logically view it, understand it, and interpret it in phase 2, and then phase 3, which is now how do I take that and change how I react or how I work with my peers, my coworkers, my friends, my family. Full gamut, where we talk about communication methods, active communication, active listening. And so by the end of the day, it's going to feel a little bit like you're drinking from a fire hose, but it will be interactive, it'll be interesting, it'll be engaging, and you'll walk away with hopefully some experiences in some tools that maybe you haven't tried before that help you calm yourself and help you work through different things, and some different shifts of perspective and some different ways to communicate. The idea is at the end of the day, you'll be able to walk away understanding yourselves better and being able to understand other people better, being a better employee, being a better performer. You will have more clarity in your thinking. When critical things come up, you'll be able to respond to it in a better and healthier way. Fewer reactive decisions, better conversations with your colleagues and your coworkers, and better performance. When you're actually jumping in, focusing on something, you'll actually perform better. So how does that benefit an employer, right? Why would a business want to pay to have their employees go through something like this? Well, when you have employees that are emotionally intelligent, they're going to perform better. They're going to have less rework. You're going to have less mistakes. You're going to have higher performance. So even from a sales perspective, there was a study done on this where higher emotionally intelligent sales reps earn 2 times the revenue. That's huge. And this is all we're talking about. We're just talking about increasing your emotional intelligence, which makes you a better performing employee. ROI on something like this is you're going to have higher performance. You're going to have less mistakes, quicker mean time to resolution on tickets. But you're also going to have less turnover, less burnout. And with all of that, you're also going to have a better culture. If you have a team that understands themselves and then is able to understand each other better, they're going to work so much better together as a team. Understanding why somebody might be difficult changes how you react and how you respond to them. Ideally, the person who is being difficult now understands why they're being difficult and can address that and will stop being so difficult to work with. So it changes the team dynamic. Like an internal event, sales kickoff, something like that, what you would likely see is, keynote-ish type style, and talk through why this is important. The benefits of emotional intelligence, talk through the logical mind framework, how it works, and give you some tangible things you can do that, like cheat sheets and stuff like that, you can get out of it. We correlate why understanding your emotions and having emotional intelligence, or how it relates to a sales cycle. For example, having empathy makes you a 15% higher earner just by having empathy. Teaching the sales guys or having them understand that, hey, if you have high emotional intelligence, you're going to earn 2 times the revenue. But who doesn't want that? Of course, sales guys want that. So it's just putting a different motivation behind it. So the reason we look at trade shows is because there is a massive issue with overstimulation and fatigue at trade shows. If you guys have been to them, you know what I'm talking about. It's just so many lights and sounds, and a lot of them are in Vegas, which just exemplifies this. There was a study not too long ago that was put out where by day 2, over 50% or right around 50% of people have lost their attention and their focus on the event. And by 3, it's up to about 75%. That's huge. So if you're an event planner or organizer, or you are a company who wants to, who's looking for leads at these events or trying to have business conversations at these events, knowing by day 2 and 3 you've already lost the attention of most of your attendees, that's a huge financial loss. We want to address that fatigue. And so what we do is we incorporate logical mind framework into it, primarily that first phase, that calm phase, that calm protocol, where we want to help people calm their biology, reset, and get back into the moment so they can actually re-engage and retain the information and the conversations that they're having. So that comes in a few different ways. Keynotes, of course. Then 2 other services that we offer. One would be like a resilience hub. So it's a room kind of set off to the side where people can go and just chill for a minute. And we might have like some guided meditation sessions, guided breathwork sessions, but it's really a way to get people to chill. A 15-minute meditation is the equivalent of like a 2 or 3 hour nap from a physiological standpoint. And so that's a great way to go and just say, hey, go take 15 minutes to just calm your biology and get you re-engaged, ready to go out through the rest of the conference. And then we have the calm stations. These are like on the trade show floor type events. And so this is doing the same thing I talked about in the meditation room, but doing it actually on the trade show floor. This is effectively, you have a booth and people come in and put on some headphones and we walk you through a 15-minute guided breathing meditation experience. So it's really cool to be able to be in that crazy, overstimulating environment and then just be totally transported out into a different world. Right? So you put on headphones, walk you through a different breathing exercise, and you find how easy it is sometimes just to tune the rest of the world out and actually like take a breath and come back to earth, right? Some really cool things we do at events. My email is scott@calmlogic.net. My website's calmlogic.net. There's a contact me page that you can fill out. I'm calm.logic on Instagram and Scott Manning on LinkedIn. Yeah, lots of different ways to get a hold of me. I definitely appreciate you watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit about, what CalmLogic has to offer, what services we do. Reach out if you want to learn more. But either way, I hope we talk soon.